What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, where we have a little conversation. I've been enjoying doing these. They are a lot of work, but it seems like people have been enjoying watching them, so I'm down to continue them, at least for the foreseeable future. And once again, it won't be every Saturday, and I don't reply to comments, but as many Saturdays as I can swing, so to speak. So today, we're going to talk about this MP39 and what's significant about it for me, and also some interesting things to take into account. Interesting, especially for me as being a kind of 3 or 4 year now, I won't say hardcore, but I will say committed buyer of Masterpiece and third-party Masterpiece figures, which is why we have this fella sitting out here today. And this is an interesting dynamic and a interesting predicament that I find myself in. I'm not sure that this is going to be the longest video because I'm not sure there's all that much to say, but it's not always about the length, lads. Relax. But we do have a number of things to talk about. We want to talk about what's going on with MP39. We want to talk about the price, and we want to talk about the value of things, which we've kind of touched on before, but we need to touch on again. Before we do, though, I want to clear up one thing from last week's video with the Bruticus thing. You guys and the knockoffs, that stuff's not for me, Mac. I'm glad that you guys enjoy it. It's just not how I do business. There will be a discussion video coming about knockoffs soon. That day is not today. I know I've been promising it for some time. You know I'm good on my promises. It's just some things take longer than others. That's what she said. Let's continue. So a couple weeks ago, we were introduced to images of MP39 Sunstreaker, and I think it looks amazing. There's lots of stuff it comes with, including a chip chase, the mask for Hoist Goes to Hollywood, different face options. It has that thing from that episode with the gun inside the leg. Originally, the spoiler on the back was yellow, but there seems to be a silver upgrade. Also, one of the things worth noting is a lot of people thought we'd never get a Sunstreaker because of the licensing issue, and that it veers away from, let's say, the Lamborghini. So there might be a licensing issue, and what they've done, it seems, is has like an extra parts in order to make it more G1. I think that's an incredibly smart way to go about it, and I applaud them for doing so. I think that's a way that none of us really considered to both satisfy the license and also stay true to the source material. So I applaud them for that. All sorts of stuff going on with the doors being able to open and the hood being able to open, and he seems to have an extreme butterfly joint, extreme, which allows you to get that, both hands holding the gun bit, which is cool. All that's cool. Let's talk about a couple things that I find worrisome before we kind of get into this conversation. And that is mainly this hunk of junk on his back. It's a lot of backpack Mac. Packing a Mac in the back of the act. Shout out to Big Pun. And then there also seems to be a peculiar thing going on with this tail flap or butt flap or whatever it is. Now, these are early test shots probably, and it's hard to exactly say, what the situation is with that and whether it can all be sorted, whether it can be fixed, whether it can be better placed, etc. But we're not quite sure. Dead in the middle of little did we know that we riddled some middle didn't do diddly. Pardon me, I'm on my big pun jump off now. So there's a couple worrisome things, but let's also talk about the price. So it's pretty pricey here in the States. Now, the retail is the same in Japan, but many sites offer early discount prices such as Anime Export, I think Ami, I can't remember all of them, where it ends up being about $75 before shipping, which puts you, I just bought something from Anime Export recently, and it was like $20 in shipping. That shipping, the EMS shipping from over there has gotten out of control. I mean, I guess it's really not that much, it's coming from Japan, but you know what I'm saying? It was like what used to be like 8 to 12 is now like 18 to 20. So I'm guessing that it's gonna put you somewhere around the 95 mark for an MP car. So let's talk about the differences. We've seen MP cars for much lower prices. There is inflation that we have to account for. We are possibly getting more paint. There might be a higher parts count and stuff like that. So I don't hate the price, but I'm not in love with it either. And I'm sure I'm being raked over the coals some kind of way. That's just the nature of the beast. It's capitalism, and I'm okay with it. If I'm willing, like I said, boys, if I'm willing to pay for it, that's what it's worth. Now, am I willing to pay for it? Let's talk about Badcube Sunsurge, which is right here, which is probably their best offering. It's not the greatest toy ever made, but it's probably their best offering. They both use a faux chest. There seems to be similarities across the board in a lot of things they've done here. Some people have made the comment like, Takara is ripping off engineering from third-party companies. I don't think that that's true. I'm not the biggest jump up and down to defend Takara person, But I do subscribe to the idea that certain things just have to move a certain kind of way in order to stay true to the character design. In order for that chest to work out, it needs to be some sort of faux chest. Just to say it can't be the exact hood, because the exact hood of the Lamborghini isn't the exact shape of Sunstreaker's chest. So something's got to give, right? Grimlock's chest has to open up, and it has to be wings on his back. That transformation's always going to be the same. The legs of Shockwave are always going to come together. They're always going to be the handle for the gun. It's just the way it has to be in order to stay true to the material. So I don't necessarily think that they're ripping off Sunsurge. I just think that things have to move a certain kind of way. But with the ball joints on here, you do get a significant butterfly out of them. You know, ball joints aren't my favorite way of doing business, but you can get the gun fairly close to in front of his chest. Is it the same? No. And let me be clear. Let me be 110% clear here. I think this MP39 is going to be the best Masterpiece Sunsurge you can buy. I think it is going to be the definitive Sunsurge. I want to be 100% crystal clear on that before people start saying, but it's going to be better. I agree. I think it's going to be the best Sunstreaker. I keep probably switching Sunstreaker and Sunsurge. Not 100% sure on that. Don't worry about it. You guys know what I'm saying. I think it's going to be 100% the best Sunstreaker ever made, period. I totally agree. Don't deny it for a second. That being said, what's interesting about this is I'm at a point where I don't know if it's 75 to 95 to 110 to 120 or whatever better than this. Like, is it $20 better than this? $30 better than this? Maybe, but not that much money. So for me, I am going to be reviewing MP39. Shout out to Robert D. He's going to get one and send it to me. So I've got that secured so I can take a look at it for you guys. And I'm sure it's going to be great. I just can't shell out that kind of money for something that I don't really feel like needs replacing, at least in comparison to what's coming. If it was something that blew this out of the water, or at least looked like it blew it out of the water, then sure, I'd jump right on it. Or if I get it and I'm like, oh, forgive me, it's a billion times better, sure, I'll swap out. But from just looking at the pictures, I'm like, I don't think it's that much better. I think it's better, but I don't think it's that much better. So that puts me in a position where this is going to be the first masterpiece mold of a G1 character from the cartoon that I'm going to be passing on. I think that's significant. I think it represents a number of things. One, how good third party has gotten over the past couple years. And two, how close we are to the end times of a finished G1 collection. I just don't feel comfortable swapping this guy out, having to sell him, going through the issue having to sell him, just to spend another 30, 40 bucks because the market has tanked on this guy because people are selling him for 50 bucks, which is our fault. Nobody's fault but ours. And to me, he's worth more than 50 bucks, so I'm not going to sell him for 50 bucks. And I'm not going to shell out 120 for something that I don't think is that much better. But let's compare the two. But first, I want to shout out Keen. I just grabbed these pictures off the internet, but I realize I end up using a lot of his pictures. I've never met the guy, but he does good work. It's very clear and concise, the imagery that he puts together. So shout out to him. I got respect for you, buddy. I've never talked to you or known you, but if you're at a TFCon or something, come up, introduce yourself. Let's chit chat. Let's talk. So the Omnigonics is there, which I feel like is a good G1 toy sort of representation, but that's not really what I'm interested in. And I don't think it's what most people are interested in. So let's look at the Sunbow and the Badcube and the Takara. All of them have the blue chest, which I think is the right move, including Takara, which doesn't always do that. So kudos to them for that. The heads are similar. I think Takara's is more accurate, but they're all similar, and I am one that prefers the silver faces over the gray faces. So people are going to say, but the gray faces are how they looked in the cartoon. And yes, I agree with you. The problem is that I think the gray in the cartoon was supposed to be emulating a silver face. It's just that they don't have silver markers. I think the chest proportions are good on all. I think that the proportions overall on the chest and abdomen are better on the Takara, but I think that the way that the side windows collapse is actually better on the Badcube. There's other little things that you guys know I'm a fan of. For instance, the 3 black lines on the chest of the Badcube versus no black lines on this animation model or on the Takara, but I like stuff like that. I like the little added details. The arms are almost identical. They're cleaner on the Takara, but they're almost identical. The hips, I think, are good across the board. I think that maybe Badcubes are too small, like the hip flaps, and I think that maybe Takaras are too big. But either way, I don't think that either is too small or too big to not be in the right ballpark for the character. I also like the way that the silver backpack sits up a little further on the Badcube one, at least apparently from these pictures, which does reminisce more of the cartoon model. The thighs are pretty much the same across the board. And then the calves and shins are pretty much the same across the board, except Badcube's doesn't have that sliding rail on the side like Takara does and like Omnigonics has, and Badcube has the extra added red and white details on the black, which isn't true to the animation model, but I think it looks cool. Which gets to the bottom part, which is the feet. Neither of them look animation accurate, but the Badcube ones are much larger than the Takara ones, and I ultimately think that the Takara ones look better in that regard. However, the Badcube ones never really bother me, and my G1 bots sit on the top shelf, so I never really see their feet anyway. Let's look at alt modes. I think that Takara is the clear winner here. Now, in this picture, it's not updated, but the spoiler is silver now. There's a silver option, at least. I think Takara is the clear winner, and I think it's because of the windshield and the choice of yellow. But I think that all of them look fine, and I think that the G1 is actually probably in second place. And then, who knows, between the other two. The other two don't do the car mode nearly as well. But, because of the licenses, none of them really look accurate to the cartoon model either. There are very few third-party products that I put in that pocket of this is going to be very difficult to ever replace. And when I reviewed this guy, that's how I felt. Like, he's not great, but he's not great in the sense that he's not perfect. But there's not a lot you can do with this character, I feel like, that looks much better than this. And I feel the same way in looking at this Takara one. I think that the backpack on this guy is a lot cleaner, and yet it's still not perfect. You know, because it's just difficult, I think, to engineer this fella. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think that the Takara one is going to be great. I'm anxious to take a look at it. I have it lined up, so I will be taking a look at it. But what I do think is interesting is that we are at a place where the best of the third-party offerings definitely give Takara Tomy a run for their money. Obviously, there are going to be some that are just loyal to the brand, the Takara brand, and they'll swap out their, Omnigonics or whatever, their Sunsurge, whatever it is. They'll swap out anything for the Takara one, and that's cool. You buy what you like, Mac. If you like it, you win. I'm a firm believer in that. But I'm saying for me personally, I collect a lot of things outside of Transformers. I think Transformers is the most exciting fandom to be in right now because of the third-party situation. But I collect a lot of stuff outside of Transformers. I'm spending a lot of money every month on toys. So I have to make some decisions. There's toys that I want that I never am able to get. I've wanted that Figma Leonidas since I had a chance to look at that. I still haven't found really the budget to really squeeze that in. So when I'm faced with something like this, I have to decide, do I want to spend $100 plus on something that I think is maybe a 20% upgrade from this in terms of my collection? Now let's be fair, I'm sure the Takara one will be engineered much better, you'll be able to flip it back and forth, but I don't have the time to do that. My stuff sits on the shelf, it's posed nicely, and that's it. So for my purposes, what the Takara one has to do to outperform this is just look better. And I think the Takara one looks maybe 10-20% better than this. I agree, it's better, but a small percentage better. So I have to ask myself, is it worth me spending $100 on something that's 10 to 20% better than something I already have? Or is it worth taking that $100 and trying to get me a Leonidas, which is something I don't have? Or put it towards the next Takara offering, or the next Badcube offering, or whatever. Maybe not the next Badcube offering, but the next high quality third party offering. So that's where I'm at with it. It's interesting. It's a very interesting place to be in, and I haven't been in that place yet. I mean, I bought the Conehead Seekers. I'm usually just in. But I'm at a point now where I'm like, I don't feel like this is worth the trouble of swapping out. But I'm sure it's going to be great. I hope it's great for those that are going to buy it. I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to taking a look at it. And until next time, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, redundant. Take care.